안녕하세요. 새로 산 하루마이 원들을 즐거운 원차 읽는 고양이 제니입니다. 오늘은 해리포터 2권 해리포터 and the Chamber of Secrets 챕터 2 읽어보도록 할게요. 냥! 챕터 2 Dobby's Warning. Harry managed not to shout out, but it was a close thing. The little creature on the bed had large bat-like ears and bulging green eyes the size of tennis balls. Harry knew instantly that this was not had been watching him out of the curtain hatch that morning. As they stared at each other, Harry heard Dudley's voice from the hall. "May I take your coats, Mr. and Mrs. Mason?" The creature slipped up the bed and bowed so low that the end of his long, thin nose touched the carpet. Harry noticed that he was wearing what looked like an old pillowcase with wisps from owls and nickels. Hello," said Harry nervously. "Harry Potter," said the creature in the high-pitched voice Harry saw Harry down the stairs. "So long had Dobby to meet you, sir. Such an honor is this." "Thank you," said Harry, edging along the wall and sinking into his desk chair, next to Hedwig, who was asleep in her large cage. Wanted to ask, "What are you?" but water sounded too loud, so instead he said, "Who are you?" "Dobby, sir, just Dobby. Dobby's the house elf," said the creature. "Oh, really?" said Harry. I don't want to be rude or anything, but this isn't a great time to have self in my bedroom." And between his high, false laugh sounded like an even blow. The elf hung his head. "Not that I'm his virtues, Harry. Is there any particular reason you're here?" "Oh, yes, sir," said Dobby earnestly. "Dobby has come to tell you, sir. It is difficult, sir. Dobby wonders where to begin." "Sit down," said Harry politely, pulling at the bed. To his horror, the elf burst into tears, very noisy tears. Sit down," he wailed. "Never, ever." Harry thought he heard the voices downstairs falter. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I don't mean to offend you or anything." "Offend Dobby," choked the elf. "Dobby has never been asked to sit down by a wizard like an equal." Harry, trying to say "shh" and look comforting at the same time, ushered Dobby back into the bed, where he sat hiccoughing, looking like an large and very ugly dog. At last he managed to control himself and sat in great eyes fixed on Harry, even expression of watery adoration. "You can't mess many didn't wizards," said Harry, trying to cheer him up. Dobby shook his head. Then, without warning, he leapt and started to banging his head furiously in the window, shouting, "Bad Dobby! Bad Dobby! Don't! What are you doing?" Harry hissed, springing up and pulling Dobby back into the bed. Hedwig had woken up in a particularly loud screech and was beating her wings wildly against the bars of her cage. "Dobby had to punish himself, sir." This is lightly cross-eyed. "Dobby almost spoke ill of his family, sir." "Your family?" "The wizard family Dobby serves, sir. Dobby is a house elf, bound to serve one house and one family forever." "Do they know you're here?" asked Harry curiously. Dobby shuddered. "Oh, no, sir, no. Dobby will have to punish himself most grievously to come to see you, sir. Dobby will have to shut his ears in the oven door for us, if they ever knew, sir." "But won't they notice if we shut ears in the oven door?" "Dobby does it, sir. Dobby is always having to punish himself for something, sir. They let Dobby over there. Sometimes they remind us to do extra punishments." "What wouldn't you leave? Escape?" "A house elf must be set free, sir, and the family will never set Dobby free. Dobby will serve the family until he dies, sir." Harry stared. And I thought Iris had died by staying here for another 4 weeks, he said. This makes the Dursley sound almost human. And I'll help you, can't I? Almost at once, Harry wished he hadn't spoken. Dobby dissolved again into wails of gratitude. Please, Harry whispered frantically. Please be quiet. If the Dursleys hear anything, if they knew here. Harry Potter asked if he could help Dobby. Dobby has heard of your greatness, sir. But of your goodness, Dobby never knew. Harry, who was feeling discreetly hot in the face, said, Whatever you heard of my greatness and a lot of rubbish. Not even talking about here at Hogwarts. That's Hermione. He stopped quickly because thinking on Hermione was painful. Harry Potter is humble and modest, said Dobby reverently, his oval eyes aglow. Harry speaks not as a triumph over he who must not be named. Voldemort, said Harry. Dobby clapped his hand over his fat ears and moaned. Ah! Speak not the name, sir! Speak not the name! Sorry, said Harry quickly. I know little people didn't like it. My friend Ron. Thinking about Ron was painful too. Dobby began to toward Harry, his legs wide as headphones. Dobby had told, he said sourcely, that Harry Potter met a dark road for a second time just weeks ago, and Harry Potter escaped yet again. Harry nodded. The Dobby's eyes suddenly shone with tears. Oh, sir, he gasped, dabbing his face with the corner of the grubby pillowcase he was wearing. Harry Potter is violent and bold. He has braved so many dangers already. But Dobby's had come to protect Harry Potter, to warn him, even if it does have to shut his ears in the open door later. Harry Potter must not go back to Hogwarts. There was a silence, broken only by the chimp of knives and forks from downstairs, and distant rumble of Uncle Verner's voice. What? Harry stammered. But I've got to go back. Tom started to step in the door first. It's all the keeping to going. I don't belong here. I belong in your world, at Hogwarts. No, squeaked Dobby, shaking his head so hard his ear flapped. Harry Potter must stay where he's safe. He's too great, too good to lose. If Harry Potter goes back to Hogwarts, he will be in mortal danger. Why? Said Harry in surprise. There is a plot, Harry Potter. A plot to make most terrible things happen at the Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry this year, whispered Dobby, suddenly trembling over. Dobby has known for worse, sir. Harry Potter must not put himself in peril. He's too important, sir. What terrible things? Said Harry at once. Who's plotting them? Dobby made a funny choking noise and then banged his head madly against the wall. All right, cried Harry, grabbed the elf's arm to stop it. You can't say, understand, but why are you warning me? A sudden unpleasant thought struck him. Hang on, this hasn't got anything to do with with you-know-who, has it? You could just shake or not, he added hastily, as Dobby's head tilted worryingly close to the wall again. Slowly, Dobby shook his head. Not he who must not be named, sir. But Dobby's voice was wide, seemed to be trying to give Harry a hint. Harry, however, was completely at sea. He hadn't a brother, has he? Dobby shook his head, his sky wider than ever. Well then, I can't include us but have a chance of making horrible thing happen at Hogwarts, said Harry. I mean, there's Dumbledore, for one thing. You know who Dumbledore is, don't you? Dobby bowed his head. I hope I Albus Dumbledore is the greatest headmaster Hogwarts I've ever had. Dobby knows it, sir. Dobby has heard Dumbledore's powers rival over he who must not be named at the height of his strength. But, sir, Dobby's voice dropped to an urgent whisper. There are powers Dumbledore doesn't. Powers no decent wizard. And before Harry could stop him, Dobby bounded off the bed, seized Harry's desk lamp, and started to beating himself around the head with ear-splitting yells. Sudden silence fell downstairs. 2 seconds later, Harry heard thudding madly, heard Uncle Vernon coming into the hall, calling, Dudley must have left his television on again. A little tyke? Quick, in the wardrobe, hissed Harry, stuffing Dobby in, shutting the door and flinging himself under the bed just as the door handle turned. What the devil are you doing? Said Uncle Vernon, griffith teeth, his face horribly close to Harry's. You just during the punchline of my Japanese golfer joke. One more sound and you wish you'd never be born, boy. He stumped further in the room. Shaking, Harry led Dobby out of the wardrobe. See what it's like here? He said. See why I've got to go to Hogwarts. It's the only place I've got, well, I think I've got friends. Friends who don't even write to Harry Potter? Said Dobby slyly. I accept they've just been hang on, said Harry frowning. Said the elf, spanking nimbly out of his roots. He pulled a thick water anchors from the inside of the pillowcase he was wearing. Harry could make Hermione's knit writing once untied his skull, and it was scribbled that looks like it was Hogwarts gamekeeper, Hagrid. Dobby blinked anxiously at Harry. Harry Potter must be angry. Dobby hoped. If Harry Potter is from Gotham, Harry Potter would not want to get back to school, sir. Harry wasn't listening. He made a grab and the litters. The Dobby jumped out of reach. Harry Potter will have them, sir. If he gives over his word, he has never returned to Hogwarts. Sir, is this a danger you must not face? Say you won't go back, sir. No, said Harry angrily. Give me my friend's letters. Then Harry Potter leaves Dobby no choice, said the elf sadly. Before Harry could move, Dobby darted onto the bedroom door, pulled it open, and sprinted down the stairs. Mouth dry, stomach lurching, Harry sprang after him, trying to not make a sound. He jumped the last 6 stairs and spread leg in the hall carpet and looking around for Dobby. From the dining room, he heard Uncle say, Tell Petunia that very funny story about the American flowers, Mr. Mason. You've been dying to hear. Harry ran up the hall into the kitchen and felt his stomach disappear. On Petunia's masterpiece of pudding, a mountain of cream and sugar violets was floating up near the ceiling. On top of a purple in the corner crouched Dobby. No, croaked Harry. Please, they'll kill me. Harry Potter must say he's not going back to school. Dobby, please, say it, sir. I can't. Dobby gave him a tragic look. Then Dobby must do it, sir, for Harry Potter's own good. The pudding fell to the floor with a heart-stopping crash. Cream spattered on the windows and walls, and the dish stared. With a crack like a whip, Dobby vanished. There was a scream from the dining room, and Uncle Vernon burst into the kitchen to find Harry rigid with shock, covered from head to foot in Aunt Petunia's pudding. At first, it looks as though Uncle Vernon would manage to gloss the whole thing over. Just our nephew, they're disturbed. Being stared at Setsu, he ran up himstairs. He shoved the soaked Mason back into the dining room and promised Harry he would flay him with the inches of his life when the Masons had left, and handed him a mop. and Petunia left some ice cream about the freezer, and Harry, still shaking, started scrubbing the kitchen clean. Uncle Vernon might still have been able to make his deal if it hadn't been the owl. Aunt Petunia was just handing out the box of after-dinner mints, and a huge owl swooped through the dining room window, dropped the letter onto Mrs. Mason's head, and swooped out of them. Mrs. Mason screamed like a banshee and ran from the house, shouting about relatives. Mr. Mason stayed just long enough to tell the Dursleys that Sweat was mortally afraid of birds of all shapes and sizes, and to ask where this was their idea of a joke. Harry stood in the kitchen, clutching the mop-veils of flirt, as Uncle Vernon advanced on him, a demon glint at his tidy eyes. "Read it," he hissed evilly, brandishing the letter the owl had delivered. "Go on, read it." It did not contain birthday greetings. "Dear Mr. Potter, we have received intelligence that the hover charm was used at your place of residence, receiving at 9:12. As you know, underage wizards are not punitive to themselves outside school, and further spectacle on your part may lead to expulsion from state school. Decree for the riddle of the reflection under Sorcery 1875, paragraph C. We would also ask you to remember that any magical activity with which no Enjoy your holidays. Yours sincerely, and Mathilda Carper in Purple Magic Fest, Ministry of Magic." Harry looked up from the letter and gulped. "You didn't tell us you weren't allowed to use magic outside school," said Uncle Vernon, a mad gleam dancing in his eyes. "Forgot to mention it. Slipped your mind, I dare say." He was bearing down on Harry like a great bulldog, with his fists bared. "Well, I've got a news for you, boy. I'm locking you up. You're never going back to that school. Never. And you try magic yourself out, they'll expel you. Ah ha 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 ha." And laughing like a maniac, he dragged Harry back upstairs. Uncle Vernon was as bad as his word. The following morning, he paid a man to fit bars on Harry's window. He himself fitted the cat lab in the bedroom door, so small amounts of food could be pushed inside 3 times a day. They let Harry out to use the bathroom morning and evening. Otherwise, he was locked in his room around the clock. 3 days later, Dursleys were showing no sign of relenting, and Harry couldn't see any way out of his situation. He lay on his bed, watching the sun sinking behind the bars of the window, and wondered miserably what was going to happen to him. What's the good of magicking so out of school if Hogwarts expelled him to do it? He'll likely free the job and roach all time low. And the Dursleys knew it was going to extra fullbacks, his only weapon. Dobby might have saved Harry for Hogwarts happens at Hogwarts, but the way things was going, it was fair to bet anyway. The cat flapped, waffled, and Aunt Petunia's hand appeared, pushing a bowl of thin soup into the room. Harry was inside, was aching with hunger, jumped up his bed and seized it. The soup was stone cold, but he drank half of it in one gulp, and pressed around Hagrid's cage and kicked the solid vegetables over bottom of the bowl into an empty food tray. He ruffled her feathers and gave him a look of deep disgust. "It's no good turning a big up, Harry. That's all we got," said Harry grimly. He put the empty bowl back on the trough next to the cat flap and lay back down on the ground, somehow even hungry as he had been before the soup. Supposing he was still alive in another 4 weeks. What would happen if he turned up at Hogwarts? Would someone be sent to see why he hadn't come back? Would they be able to make the Dursleys let him go? The room was growing dark. Exhausted, stomach rumbling, mind spinning over the same unanswerable questions, Harry fell into an uneasy sleep. He dreamed that he was on show in a zoo, with a card reading "Underage Wizard" attached to his cage. People goggled through the bars at him as he lay starving and weak on a bed of straw. He saw Dobby's face in the crowd and shouted out, asking for help, but Dobby called, "Hello, Peter, it's safe, sir," and vanished. Then the Dursleys appeared, and Dudley rolled the birds of their cage, laughing at him. "Stop it!" Harry muttered, as the rattling pounding in his sore head. "Leave me alone! Cut it out! I'm trying to sleep." He opened his eyes. Moonlight was shining through the bars on the window, and someone was goggling through the bars at him. A freckled face, red hair, long-nosed someone. Ron Weasley was out Harry's window. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.